Greetings comrades, my name is Gigantles, and in today's video I'm going to be doing an update to the whole Cursed Rosary or Satanic Rosary controversy. That I haven't covered it in a while, but there's been a pretty significant update that is necessary for me to cover. So, for those of you who aren't familiar, a few years ago, back when I was in university, I started putting out videos about how there were apparently cursed or satanic rosaries that were being given to unknowing Catholics, and this was apparently responsible for curses and misfortunes happening to people. And I in turn learnt about this because I really hope you can't hear the wind outside. I only learnt about this because I came across an article about them on Facebook, and I did some research, and a Filipino exorcist, so an exorcist from the Philippines, he had written an article or was talking about it, and so I thought, oh great, no, not oh great. I thought, oh no, I've got to let people know about this, and so then I started releasing videos talking about how to spot these, why they're erroneous, why they're suspect, and I even did one in Spanish because there were people, presumably in the Philippines, which Spanish is a language there, and or similar enough to the Filipino at least. They wanted to know what I was talking about, but because a lot of my videos contain English text, they weren't too sure what I was talking about. So by translating it, they were able to understand. But there's been a pretty significant development. First, I need to show you guys what these cursed rosaries look like, so you can understand why this update is important. So, instead of combing through my extensive number of files on OneDrive trying to find the original pictures I took of these cursed rosaries, I found this nice PDF online, which basically has pictures of these cursed rosaries and explains what the problems are with them and why they're suspect. So, yeah, there's a lot of good information on this. I'm going to have to scroll in for this. I'll start with the black one because it's the most clear. The reason why these rosaries were seen as suspect is because of the choice of symbology behind them. As we can see with the one on the right here, and you can see my cursor this time because I need to highlight this stuff properly. With this icon of Christ, we can ignore the low quality details here because it's made of plastic, not metal, which metal's better for finer details. There's no INRI plaque behind Christ's head. In addition, there are meant to be these suns behind him, which were meant to be some sort of, I think it was the Filipino exorcist. He said that they were related to the Illuminati or Freemasons. They're shining behind Christ as if like a spotlight's on him, as opposed to typical depictions of the sun. There's meant to be a snake behind Christ here, which is what this weird S shape is. So it's again, according to what the Filipino exorcist was saying, this is meant to be almost like some Gnostic or satanic victory over Christ. There's some variation with the design of these cursed rosaries. On the one on the left here, the pink one, it's a bit harder to tell, but instead of the sun shapes that we see on the right one, there are these what look like donuts, and this is meant to be a replacement for it. The snake is sort of here with an S shape above Christ's head, and although it's a bit difficult to see, there's meant to be what looks like thorns wrapped around the top bar of the cross, which Christ is meant to be crucified from. And then you can sort of see the snake apparently winding its way up the cross here. And with the middle one, and this is it looks pretty damning from first glance. It's a bit difficult, but there are some clearer ones I can show you. The white one here in the middle, it's got the same features as the other ones, if not a bit more preserved. You can sort of see what look like these weird shapes behind Christ's body, which is meant to be the thorns. And then at each of the corners, or at each of the points of the cross, you can see what looks like this weird devil head. So you got a circle here, and then you got two horns coming down. And so this was meant to be slam dunk evidence that this is cursed, and is meant to be like demonic faces basically jeering at Christ on the cross. And this could take quite a while to scroll through. Okay, yeah, so here's another Here they are. Here's meant to be the S, which is the snake. Another one there, though it's a bit flatter, because sometimes depending on the type of plastic that these rosaries are made from, it's a bit difficult to tell what they're showing. I found one of these in my cathedral. You may see that from my Life at University series. I found one of these, and I had my priest take it down and take a look at it. Here's in the blue one, because these plastic rosaries come in all sorts of colors. Some of them glow in the dark too. Here's one that's okay. Well, here you can see the S relatively clearly compared to this one. Here it just looks a bit weird shaped, and that's probably because when something is mass produced, not as much detail goes into it. Yeah, good range. Okay, the white one's almost impossible to see, but here you can see the variation in something like the S here, where it's meant to be the snake. Very flat here, very like a ribbon, and then here it's a bit more. Well, it looks more like a snake here. You can sort of see like the S, whereas here it's just it's not as strong, and then the weird like demonic heads jeering at Christ. Here's the circle ones, the donuts. They're shown more clearly on the blue one. Yeah, they've been called cursed rosaries, New Age rosaries, Satanic rosaries. Here's another variation of them, but without like the points. Like it's not as pointy as these ones here. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. If you look at the shape of these, at the shapes at the end of these points of the cross, they're meant to be. They look like pentagons. And what the Filipino exorcist was saying was that this is meant to be a subtle reference to the pentacle. I believe it is. Pentacle. I can't remember what it's called now, but you know when you have the upside down star with the 2 points on the top, and then the 2 at the side and the 1 at the bottom, that's meant to represent like Baphomet or something. So one horn here, ear here, and then the goatee down. Even though, admittedly, it's a bit of a weak connection to make, because there's of the 4 points across here, only of the four end pentagons here, you could only make that Baphomet symbol with the top one, and that's simply because of the orientation. So it's not really conclusive by itself, but when you take all of these suspect symbologies together, and you put in this context, you then you look at it and say, okay, well, all of these together give you something that's a bit malicious or suspect. And then here on Instagram is someone who's actively selling, practicing Satanist, actually selling these rosaries. Even though you can get them either like for free in churches or really cheap, and that's what the concern was. Yeah, apparently they're usually made in Ecuador. But that's what the concern was, the fact that these cursed or satanic rosaries were available so freely and cheaply online and handed out in churches, so that this was this massive dissemination, is that it? The fact that these were so widely available was problematic, because it meant that people would be cursed by them very quickly. And I did talk to one guy. I think he was also Filipino. He told me that he had actually been attacked, apparently, by an invisible hand, which left, like, when you slap someone with your hand and then it sometimes leaves, like, the red welts that you can see, like, the shape of their fingers. Okay, well, he said that he had apparently been hit by an invisible hand, and then he took a photo of his side, or just like by the back of his side, where you could apparently see this. But even though I took that as like damning evidence that this was cursed, ultimately it wasn't something I could verify scientifically. Illuminati rosary. But I think the whole threat of the Illuminati is grossly exaggerated. That was an institution created in Bavaria in, I think, like the 18th century. So it's not really a threat like the movies make it out to be. But there was a lot of concern about the nature of these cursed rosaries, and the main reason why there was concern was because of the choice of symbology on it. And yeah, however, a few months ago, and I've been meaning to make this video for a bit, but I keep getting distracted. A few months ago, I came across a post on Facebook by a page called Cool Catholics, which claimed that they had found the original. They had found the original rosary that these cursed rosaries had been based on. And so I went onto it, and it looks. I think that there's a very credible case to be made here that we may have gotten, or rather, I will take responsibility for my part in spreading this, but everyone who claims that these cursed rosaries are cursed may have been misled due to a lack of available information about the origin of these rosaries. I did come across one person who claimed to be distributing them, and I think another person claiming to have created them, and they said this isn't cursed or satanic. Can't find those now, fortunately, but I think we're at the point where we can conclude that these cursed rosaries are not actually cursed. If they have weird symbology on it, that's because of the transition in quality, or rather that's the lowering in quality from the transition between metal rosaries to plastic rosaries, and the loss of details leads to these otherwise normal symbologies being seen as controversial. So when you look at this, and I'm going to go to closer details here, so these rosaries, they typically have the normal designs of a rosary, so beads, and then the Blessed Virgin Mary holding the infant Christ. And here's what I want to bring your attention to. Is it this? Yeah, okay. So here's what I want to bring your attention to. When you look at this metal rosary, that snake that we thought was behind Christ's head was not a snake. It is a ribbon. It is a literal ribbon here. And you can see this ribbon not only going down here, and you can tell it's a ribbon because of how thin it is and the way it curves. It's also present behind Christ here, and so the idea that this was actually like a branch made of thorns, I think, again, that was a detail lost in transition from metal to plastic. So there's actually nothing controversial about this, about like the arm bar, is that what this is called? About the from which Christ is suspended from. The INRI plaque, that in itself being missing isn't a wrong thing, because sometimes there will be halos present in these cursed rosaries. But when you look at details like this, I mean, take a look behind the heads of Christ here. You can't really see like rays. You can sort of infer it here, but you can't see rays radiating out from him because of the lower quality. You can see that, however, in the metal ones. And then the main point, which I think people were rightly concerned about, was the apparently demonic faces that were behind Christ. And was there a high quality picture I could look at regarding this? That's as far as I can zoom in. But I want you to pay close attention to the apparently demonic skulls shown. Well, these three really, but this one, because you can clearly see the reflection of the surrounding plastic, so you can tell that there's a horn here, and a face here, and then what looks like some weird lines around it. When you compare that to the design of the cross of the crucifix here, you realize that's not a demon head. That's actually an angel. I think specifically this would be known as a putti, which is meant to be an angel depicted as a child. So typically the head like a fat baby head, and then with wings around it. If you look at this, you realize that these horns are not horns. They're basically is it shown here? Yeah. They're basically the top of the wings shown here, because when you have wings typically associated with angels, unlike that, actually anything with wings really, the whole structure, and I don't know the specific scientific terminology regarding the structure of wings, but when you have a wing, the front of the wing is typically made out of bone or something that's used to then stretch out skin and feathers and stuff across. So then you can, and then the bones, then there's muscle attached to that bone, which then allows for flight. But there's always going to be some element of the wing, unless in insects, because they're small enough to not eat this. There will always have to be some element of the wing which is thicker and tougher than the rest of it, in order to provide the structural support required to not only support the wing, but also control it with powerful movements. And that's what those horns actually are. You can see it here, where it looks like there's a horn here, 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 and a horn here. That's not horns. That's just what would be considered the bone providing the structural support at the top of the wing. And you can see that here as well, where there's a slight shadow and a slight shadow, because the light source is coming from the bottom of the picture. So you can clearly see that, not gradient, is it? You can clearly see where this part of the metal rosary sticks out, symbolizing that that structural piece of the wing. And that's what these points are, because when you look down from it, you then realize that all these weird lines that look like they're radiating out, they're not like light. They're actually feathers, and these feathers form a ring based upon the shape of the wing around this puti's or angel's head. And you compare that to here, and you can see the exact same thing happening, just on a lower quality. Look at the top one here. You can see what looks like this weird shape arcing around just inside the edge of this pentagon. Around the edge of this pentagon. And you can see it also here, this weird shape arcing around, Not so much here because of the quality, like the light is coming from the right side of the screen, not the top or any other angle. So the shadow cast here is going to, by the horns, is going to obstruct that. But you can see that this is basically meant to be mimicking this. Okay, there's no actual horns on these creatures. They're the heads of angels with the top part of the wing being much sharper than the finer details which show the feathers. And these feathers then fall around the base of the angel, because that's where the wing is meant to be. With this important development, I would say that the whole accusation about these being cursed rosaries, I think it falls short from this point on. And I will admit, part of this is related to other developments that I found when doing my research for my ministry, in which I've learned not to trust everything exorcists say. And I know that sounds a bit weird, but in my research, I find that exorcists, I think exorcists deal with chronic lies, or inherent lies rather, because demons always lie, even during exorcisms. We know this. So this and especially in the Philippines, I hate to say it, but a lot of the areas in the Philippines are still superstitious, and they sometimes mix their superstitions in with their religion. And that's why the Philippines will say stuff like Pokemon is satanic, Harry Potter is satanic, even though the Vatican has given approval to Pokemon, and I have personally studied Harry Potter, including the magic, but the substance of magic in it versus the substance of magic in real life. The spells in Harry Potter, the names of characters in Harry Potter, the themes in Harry Potter. There is nothing satanic about Harry Potter whatsoever. It is completely incompatible with Satanism and Wiccanism and everything that we would associate witches with. But when it comes to this, I think that the exorcist, the Filipino exorcist who first raised the alarm about these cursed rosaries, he was, I guess, exaggerating or overreacting a bit. No disrespect intended to him, but I think he was erroneous on this. And just as some exorcists say that Harry Potter is satanic and some say that they aren't, he is an exorcist who says this is satanic, and there are other exorcists and priests who say this isn't. I think the main controversy behind these cursed rosaries isn't that there's been any verified reports of there being like curses and possessions and stuff linking to them. It's been this apparent controversial choice of symbology. But when you look at higher definition rosaries like this, because let's be honest, if you looked at these rosaries, like if you looked at this one, you wouldn't see anything wrong with that. Okay, it looks relatively fine. If you looked at the one that looks like a donut, which isn't here right now, but if you looked at the one that looks like a donut, you would probably say that's an ugly rosary, but it's not that controversial. This one, however, because it looks like demon heads with horns, you would say that this is 100% controversial, and it has to be satanic because it's got demon heads on it. And then from this looking obviously demonic, you would then say that other similar rosaries with similar choice in symbology, so this, what looks like a snake being copied here, being here, this must mean it's the same branch of Satanic Rosary, just a slightly different design, and so on. But if we can prove that this one isn't actually satanic, but just a bad choice of design, then the whole case for these being cursed rosaries falls apart. And it just turns out that it was an exorcist, unfortunately, overreacting to this. And I will say that from my initial research, I remember that he had also made controversial statements regarding, I think, what was it, miraculous medals, which, or some other saint medal, which I think was actually disproven. So he was proven wrong on that. So it doesn't give much credence to his opinion about these satanic rosaries actually being satanic or cursed. Okay, this rosary is just meant to be based upon this vintage designed rosary. What did the post say? It was a vintage rosary from France. I don't know how old it is, but if it's vintage, then it's going to be as far back as I think like it's probably as far back as the 50s. I could be wrong, but the design of it, the design of it, when you look into it, it's very clearly an angel, and then this is very clearly a ribbon, and there's very clearly rays here and ribbons, and then a crossbar, but it's not some sort of branches with thorns on it. It's just that when this was copied, or rather mimicked by this later rosary, which was made in plastic, a lot of those details were lost in translation. And then when maybe this was the first attempt to design, I don't know, because it mirrors it very well with the ribbon. But then the people who made these rosaries, they changed the design slightly so that we're still recording, so that you could make out the shape a bit better, so it would stick out more. Problem is, it then looked like an S, a snake in the shape of a snake in the shape of an S. And then the crossbar, sorry, I keep messing up because I'm talking too fast. And then the crossbar seems to disappear with this ambiguous shape behind it, and then the feathers are lost in transition too, which then makes it look like a face with horns, and that looks demonic. So, for me, having covered this story for several years and going so far as to make a video warning about this in other languages, specifically Spanish, which I may have to make, I guess, redo that video now with this now that I've been enlightened by the situation with this vintage rosary. I think it's safe to say that this controversy does not exist. There is no such thing as a cursed rosary which has where is it again? I keep losing it. There is no such thing as a rosary, at least in this specific choice of design, which is based upon the Illuminati, the New Age, or it's cursed or satanic whatsoever. It's just a poor choice of symbology that just didn't translate well when it was mass-produced in plastic from the original design in metal. Okay, there's nothing satanic about suns here. Okay, there's nothing satanic about it whatsoever. This is clearly a ribbon, not a snake. This is a ribbon around the crossbar. It's not a snake, nor is it thorns. This is not a pentacle, whatever it is. I can't think of the name now. It's just that this is one of four endpoints of the cross, which typically do have an enlarged shape on the end, and it is often a pentagon, because there isn't anything inherently satanic about the pentagon. Remember, the pentacle. I really need to find the right word for this. This shape, the shape that this is meant to be inferring, it's also the shape that refers to the 5 holy wounds of Christ, because there's 5 points, so the hands, the side, and then the feet. So it's not in itself a satanic shape. The iron eye missing is not inherently satanic. There are rays here, and you can sort of see it from here. It's just a bit hard to see because it's made of plastic. I'm sure the color scheme doesn't help either, because you can't really see what's going on back here. The really ugly donut design just seems to be a very bad design choice, as opposed to it being satanic, since donuts are not a satanic or Illuminati symbol. And the final nail in the coffin, which is meant to be these demonic heads with horns, those aren't demonic heads or horns whatsoever. It's an angel with wings, but the finer details have been lost in translation or transition from metal to plastic, especially these feathers, which may just look like rays or like shimmering wavy lines, and so it just gives the impression that it seems to look like a satanic head with horns, but it's not. It's just mass production in plastic. It's not something that's inherently malicious. If that person that I did read the comment from was indeed a distributor and producer of these rosaries, we should be taking his opinion here, because he's the person that designed and produced these rosaries. And if he's a practicing Catholic, why would he want to produce a controversial design that would be confused for Satanism and stuff, unless he didn't think it was satanic whatsoever? Which means that this just may have been a bit of, what is the term, apophenia? Which apophenia is when you infer patterns from data, and you infer patterns from data and things that patterns don't exist in. So this just seems to be an unfortunate case of an exorcist who was mistaken when he saw these rosaries and thought that they were satanic, which then spread, the rumors about it and gossip then spread like wildfire throughout the Philippines. It then spread into the West, where people like myself were at first believed it, and we made content about it, doing articles and videos warning about it, and even making this PDF online, which was passed around parishes in that area. But with further evidence, we can conclude that there's nothing controversial about it at all. And I apologize for me repeatedly saying this, but it's just a poor choice in symbology after the original symbology was greatly reduced in quality, as this beautiful vintage metal rosary was mass produced in plastic, and so some of the symbology, because the details are lost, were then swapped out with other ones. But there's ultimately nothing satanic or cursed about this. If there is, then we'd have to wait for a statement to come from the Pope and the Magisterium and everyone in the Vatican who is responsible for the management of sacramentals, because there's no real scientific evidence when it comes to this actually being cursed. We can say that it's a controversial choice of symbology, but the people coming forward and claiming that this cursed them or hurt them or whatever, we can't verify that this is linked specifically due to these rosaries. And it's important that I make a video like this, because just, I think last week, I received a message from in the comments of one of my videos about this cursed rosary, and someone said that they were going to burn a version of the plastic rosary with these designs on it. And I said, maybe hold off on that, and gave an explanation why it wasn't controversial. And he messaged me back saying that the next day saying that okay, fine, he wouldn't do it, because if there's nothing wrong with these rosaries, then we run the risk of basically desecrating sacramentals, and that's not something we want to have upon our souls. Especially me, considering I put out information saying that there was reasonable evidence to believe that these were cursed. I've grown in character and my standards, and I say that I retract my original stance on this, that there is nothing controversial about this except that maybe the choice in symbology after the final details were lost from the metal design to the plastic design. And it would be better, all you need to just remove any potential curse on this thing is to take it to a priest who then blesses it. Okay, that's it. You don't need to go burn it or destroy it yourself, which, even if it was cursed, that would be an incredibly dangerous thing to do, especially for us as members of the laity. So if you do have concern over this, just go to a priest and have it blessed. That's it. That's all you need. You don't need to go around destroying this and potentially risk incurring a spiritual penalty upon your soul for taking matters into your own hand when that is definitely not necessary. I know there's a sort of thrill about dealing with the supernatural and thinking that you are some soldier of Christ dealing with a problematic rosary or whatever that's secretly promoting Satan and is cursed, and you want to get a victory against the demons and the dark spirits out there. But don't tempt that. Don't think of yourself as being some sort of spiritual warrior when you are not. You have no spiritual power within you over demons, that especially when you're not trained, and there are specific guidelines for stuff like this. If it is cursed, just take it to a priest. If you don't know if it's cursed or not, just take it to a priest anyway, and let that be the end of it. If the priest wants to do anything with it, let him, but ultimately that's for ordained members of the clergy. It's not for us to take into our own hands and destroy sacramentals that may already potentially be blessed, and in which case it would count as desecration. So, and I'm going to have to wrap up this video considering how long it's getting. There's nothing controversial about these cursed satanic Illuminati New Age rosaries. The people who made them have come forward and said there's nothing controversial. all claims of this being associated with curses and misfortune is unverifiable. The controversial symbology seems to be nothing more than just details lost from the metal design, which is higher quality and more refined, so you could see finer details, to when it was made into plastic rosaries that were then mass produced, in which the quality significantly reduced, and so it then started looking like something else. Just because one exorcist says that that there's a problem with this doesn't mean there actually is, and he's already been proven wrong on at least one other topic, so keep that in mind. And if you genuinely do have concerns for the plastic rosary, just take it to a priest to get blessed. That's all you need. You don't need to risk incurring a penalty upon your soul by destroying a blessed object, which would be desecration. I've spoken for long enough on this topic now. I probably have to go make a Spanish version of this, or at least in terms of text-wise, so that I no longer lead people astray with this, especially now that I know the truth, and what they do to their curse, what they do to potentially blessed rosaries will now be a weight upon my soul. So I have to make it thoroughly clear that there is nothing wrong with these rosaries. If there is, just get them blessed. I retract my earlier statements, because there is substantial evidence that I was wrong, and we were all wrong when talking about this being a controversial matter. And I'm probably going to have to go to confession about this. I will go to confession about this, just to show that I do apologize for being wrong about this. And I'm just repeating myself here. So just don't destroy these don't destroy these apparently cursed rosaries anymore. Actually, don't destroy them at all. There's no reason to. The controversy is over. We found the original design. It's just an unfortunate choice of symbology that its details were lost when it was made from metal to plastic. There's no evidence that these were actually cursed, and if there was, all you need to do is just get a priest to bless them, and they would be fine. Otherwise, and I need to finally finish this because I'm just repeating myself. Otherwise, that's it for this video. So thank you all for watching. God bless you all. See you in the next video, comrades. Until then.